in terms of strength training, I specifically want to talk to two groups of people who really, in my opinion, don't understand the value of strength training. So, and just to throw it out there, these would be my endurance athletes and my women, just in general. So there seem if we take those one at a time, we say endurance athletes, in my opinion, seem to you kind of alluded to it earlier that they're working for these speeds, these times, these distances and whatnot. And to me, there's an overall belief that, oh well, if I train for strength, I'm gonna get bulky, I'm gonna get slower, I'm gonna, it's going to negatively affect my performance. Whereas, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my belief is that endurance work is inherently catabolic. It's breaking down muscle tissue. So we have to, on the flip side, we have to do something to be building that muscle tissue back up, and that comes by way of our nutrition and by way of our strength training principles. So is there a is what would you say, or what do you have to say to our endurance athletes who may not necessarily place an emphasis on strength training?
Yeah, I think a lot of the serious endurance athletes, just to be clear, you know, understand the importance of strength, and they have to fit it into their endurance sport. Right, what's always going to be a priority is the endurance because that's what they do. Um, so obviously, their strength training is going to be a lot different. But to those who may not do it or do have those preconceived notions that it's going to hinder their performance, um, they need to understand that it is important. If you're an endurance athlete who's so conditioned in endurance training, um, that there are catabolic processes going on for energy, but their musculature, their structure has changed so much to adapt to what they're doing that they're not necessarily degenerating, if
Okay.
you will. But the strength training definitely is going to help the basics of keeping the structural components solid, right? Because again, with strength training, it's more than just muscle. It's the bones, it's the ligaments, it's the tendons, it's the joints. So just maintaining a level of strength training uh, in their training um, is going to help maintain essentially just for a general term a healthy
Right.
structure so that they can maintain their endurance training because again they're endurance athletes, that's what they prefer, and there'll be times in their training where they have to get so specific that strength training will completely
Right.
go away for a
Not
period of
a
time.
priority,
uh,
or become a
right,
priority.
but right. But yeah, for those that are shying away from the endurance or from the strength training, or who don't see value in it, I would bring them back to the 401k
Right.
mentality. Let's build up your body. Let's get you structurally strong, so that you can handle those grinder weeks and those grinder sessions of high training in your
Right.
endurance peak, because it'll pay dividends when you have to hunker down and get in some high mileage, some 70+ mile
Right.
weeks or
Right.
whatnot. So um, yeah, I would definitely always try to relate it back to the fact that it's going to, it's we don't want you strength training to take away from your sport that you
Right.
enjoy. We want you strength training so that you can last
I
longer
like
in it.
that. I like that. I talked to, and I guess the reason why I always thought of endurance work as more catabolic is because I run into people who over time they develop what I believe to be overuse injuries. So they end
Sure.
up dealing with, especially lower body joints, anything from the hips down. And I always attributed that to their lack of overall strength. You also kind of touched on another subject that we need to go deep into, and that's periodization. But that's a whole different topic, you know. And everybody needs periodization, but then that comes under the umbrella of training versus exercise, you know. That
Right.
comes into the
That's going to be a
right,
long day. We're going to have to do that
right,
on a Saturday.
right. Because then just for me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but even me as a trainer, I feel the need to at least run something by another trainer, or have another trainer program some part of my workout, or like even as a
Yes.
trainer, I don't feel comfortable being responsible for all of my programming. I just don't.
Right. And you take out the objective side
Right.
of it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
But yeah, and yeah, with the to finish up your side, the female athletes with as much push and power that's out there to have female training, resistance training getting stronger, is definitely on the rise. But we still run into
I don't want
those
to get bulky. Yeah.
clients that are worried about getting bulk, and I think it's important to even though we know it's silly, it's important to take what they say seriously, because if we kind of chuckle at it, they'll feel dismissed, and then we'll lose that connection with them. We'll lose
Okay.
that trust that we're trying
Right.
to establish, because before we can go into any science, before we can go into any programming, and again, this will be yet again another
Right.
podcast.
Right.
Compliance is first, right? Compliance trumps
Right.
everything. Uh, so, and especially if you're not active. So, it's awesome to see the push in women in strength sports, but it still does scare
Right.
some others, because they see the extremes, the
And
insane and awesome, insane CrossFit athletes
right.
and stuff, but it's
Right.
intimidating, and so there's always going to be
And
that
you
pendulum
said
to
you
battle.
said something. So there's a phrase that I've heard that I really like, and it applies to women. It says strong is the new sexy. And I
Yeah,
absolutely agree with that. You know, from the advent of CrossFit, and let me just go on the record to say I will never put down anybody's workout. You know, regardless
sure.
if it works for them, if it meets their goals, then that's the only thing that's important, right?
Drive on.
So I would never put down anybody's workout. And in the interest of full disclosure, I think for women who do CrossFit, I mean, the CrossFit does women's bodies well. I'll say that much. And as far as like for me, I lend towards the bulkier side. You know, I want to see my strength gains. I'm a stickler for form. I'm all of that. So
Sure.
I have tons of respect for CrossFitters. It just wasn't a good fit for me. But I've always
Yeah.
had respect for, because for a long time women weren't doing strength training. So the the credit
CrossFit
CrossFit.
has
Right,
been number
right,
one.
right.
Yeah.
I credit CrossFit to getting a lot of women in the gym and moving some weight, moving that barbell. So
One
so
hundred
that's,
percent. One
you
hundred
know, not
percent.
to come across as sexist or anything, but I absolutely credit CrossFit with bringing weightlifting to the female community. So, and I'll say this other
Yep.
thing. No, like I said, not to come across as sexist. Hopefully, I don't offend anybody. But I had a female who she told me, and I see her in the gym every day. She's working hard, and I told her, I said I would really like to see you moving some heavy weight. You know, I think it would do your body good. She just, and as a trainer, just to look at her, I just say you are built for power. You need to be moving some weight.
You
Right,
saw the
right.
potential.
So so she said to me, and like you said, I didn't dismiss it. I didn't blow her off. She said, you know, I've always wanted to lift heavy, but I don't want to look like a dude. And I'm
Yeah. Just
right,
hurts your
right. And
heart when you hear that.
I tried to lighten it up a little bit, and I said no disrespect to anybody, but any female who looks like a dude wants to look like a dude. She she because And that's no discredit to her. She works very hard. She controls every aspect of her fitness and nutrition and her supplementation, but that's a different subject. But
Supplementation, that's a very polite
so
word.
she 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 manipulates every aspect of her workout in order to look like that. That does not happen by
Right.
accident. You are not gonna make a mistake and look like that. So,
That's a good way to put it. Make a mistake and look like
so,
that.
so I say that to reassure, any of our
That's what it
right.
comes down
Just
to,
to
reassurance.
reassure.
Letting them know,
That's the
like,
main thing.
got
As we start to wrap up this episode, I think I speak for both of us in saying that really my goal is just to put out some good, solid information, and I invite anybody who listens, if if you wanna check me on something, or if you want me to provide supporting information for anything that I've said, or if you wanna get on a debate about it. I mean, I invite all information, or I just want to make sure that we're putting out good, solid information, and that's it. I want to be a source
definitely.
where, in the midst of all the chaos and all the misinformation and all the false promises and stuff like that, I just want to be a source of good, solid information. So, hopefully we hopefully that message gets across.
Yeah, for sure.
And
There's a lot of information out there, and there's with today's world, there's a disproportionate level of information out there versus
right,
fact checking. So we got to be the
right.
filter to that. We got to be the go-to source for that to make sure that truth and potency in fitness is out there.